I've worked nights in hospitals for over a decade now, and most people assume the worst part is the exhaustion or the constant emergencies. They have no idea how strange a hospital becomes between midnight and dawn. The halls feel too wide, the lights feel too dim, and the building makes noises that don't belong in any place meant for healing. But what happened during one shift last winter is the only thing that ever made me think about quitting the profession entirely. I still don't like talking about it, and I've never told my coworkers exactly what I saw. I don't want to be the nurse in the break room everyone whispers about. It was around 2 a.m. on a slow night. Most patients were asleep, vitals stable, meds given, charts updated. I was floating that shift, assigned to a half-full medical floor in the Midwest. The kind of floor with older patients, mostly respiratory issues, nothing too dramatic. One of my patients was an older man, polite, soft-spoken, always thanked us for things. He'd come in earlier that day with pneumonia. He'd been confused that evening, but calm. We all thought he'd pull through. I was walking past the hallway intersection near his room when I saw someone ahead of me, maybe 20 feet away, shuffling slowly toward the elevator. The figure was thin, stooped slightly, pushing an IV pole that squeaked with each step. My first thought was, he's wandering again. Nighttime disorientation isn't unusual in older patients, especially with infections. I called his room number out loud, gently, trying not to scare him. He didn't turn, didn't react, just kept moving, steady and slow. I quickened my pace, calling a little louder this time. Still nothing. As I walked closer, I could see the hospital gown, the sagging shoulders, the familiar gray hair. It was him. I didn't think twice, just keyed my radio and said, "Can someone meet me by the elevators? Patient from room 214 is up and walking." No answer yet, so I kept going until I reached the elevator hallway. Empty. He wasn't there. No footsteps, no IV pole, no sound of doors closing. The elevator indicators weren't even lit, meaning no one had pressed a button. I stood there confused, half convinced he must have ducked into a room or behind a corner, even though there was nowhere for him to go. I walked up and down the hallway twice, then checked the stairwell. Nobody. Before I could radio again, my CNA finally responded, sounding out of breath. "Hey, I'm in 214. He's still in bed." I frowned. "Are you sure?" I saw him walking toward the elevator. There was a long pause. Then the CNA said quietly, "He's not wandering. He's gone. He passed sometime between midnight and 1. I was coming to find you." My entire body went cold because 30 seconds earlier I'd watched him walk away from me. I walked back toward room 214 in a daze, my mind trying to make sense of something that had no sensible explanation. I'd worked night shifts long enough to see all kinds of confusion. Patients dreaming with their eyes open, talking to people who weren't there, mistaking oxygen tubing for telephone cords. But this was different. I had spoken to him. I had seen him. The way his hospital gown dragged against the floor, the IV pole with the peeling barcode sticker, the way his slippers barely stayed on his heels. Those weren't things you imagine. Those were details your brain doesn't invent at 2 a.m. When I stepped into his room, the overhead light was already on. He lay on his side, features settled into that unmistakable stillness that comes after the last breath. His chart showed the CNA had done all the right checks. Time of death documented, everything orderly and calm. Nothing in the room matched the man I had watched walking away. No IV pole beside the bed, no slippers on the floor. His gown was folded neatly across his legs, exactly how we'd left it after repositioning him earlier. My CNA looked shaken. "You said he was walking?" I nodded, unable to trust my voice. We called the attending, notified the supervisor, and followed protocol. The floor became busier for a while. Low voices, the hush of rubber soles on tile, the soft beeping of equipment being powered down. Everyone was focused on procedure, but my eyes kept drifting to the open doorway, to the hall beyond it, half expecting to see that slow, steady shuffle again. When transport finally arrived to take him to the morgue, the supervisor asked us to pull the security footage from the hallway, just to confirm he hadn't gotten up earlier and fallen. Hospitals are terrified of liability. I almost felt relieved. A camera would explain everything. Maybe he had gotten up and walked earlier before losing consciousness. Maybe my mind mixed up the timing. Maybe the shadows in the hallway played tricks on me. The security officer loaded the footage on the small monitor in the nurse's station. We watched the hallway from midnight onward. 1:03 a.m., a CNA passing with linens. 1:17 a.m., me walking toward room 210. 1:32 a.m., lights flicker briefly, nothing unusual. 2:06 a.m., me again, chart in hand. 2:14 a.m., me turning the corner toward the elevator. But the moment I saw him, the moment I called out to him, the moment he walked ahead of me, the screen showed nothing. Just a long, empty hallway with the lights humming steadily. The guard rewound, zoomed, adjusted brightness. Each time the footage was the same, me walking alone. But there was one thing I hadn't noticed before. A tiny glitch in the feed, a static distortion that broke the screen for precisely 3 seconds. The exact time I remembered seeing the man reach the end of the hall. The guard frowned. That's strange. That camera never glitches. Nobody said anything after that. We finished the shift, but it felt like the building was holding its breath. When dawn finally broke and the first shift arrived, I stepped outside into the cold morning air and felt something I hadn't felt all night. Relief. Because whatever I saw, whatever walked away from me, didn't follow me out. At least I hope it didn't. Thanks for watching Mrs. Nightmare. If you enjoy it, subscribe. If you have your own creepy story, send it through. Email in bio. or comment it below.